Hey, good morning, Mr. Mayor and everyone on the call. Mr. Mayor, I'd just like for you to talk us through the phases that are going to happen in the coming weeks. Could you walk us through phase one a little bit more closely in terms of, do we expect that to happen in the first week of June and the second week of June, and any of those NYC specific measures that you've mentioned? And what would phase two look like if the indicators hold? When would that be, and what kind of activities could we see come online?
So, Julia, the most important thing to say to you is we're going to be briefing all New Yorkers on each of these questions as we get closer. I'm feeling confident right now that phase one will begin by the first or second week of June, as I've said. The fact is the indicators, the thresholds all keep pointing in that direction. Now, I feel confident because I'm watching the very consistent trends here, but that doesn't mean we're there yet. And until we are 100% there, we're gonna be very clear that we aren't there until we're there. And I'll keep updating people every single day. In terms of the categories, and again, we're assessing the number of people that we expect to come back in the first instance, and then if people see it's going well, I think you'll see that number grow. Unquestionably, several 100,000 people to begin as you open up construction, manufacturing, wholesale, and more retail because you can do the curbside and the pickups. The state has put out its guidance, which is very helpful guidance about what's needed in each place of business, but we have to do the enforcement work and the monitoring. So we're going to be talking about these next few days, which agency is going to do which industry, how that's going to go, what's going to be expected of people, what's going to happen when we don't see the kind of compliance we need. That's a lot that we have to put together and put on the table, but it'll all be in place well before we announce the actual day for the restart. In terms of phase two, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We still have to get to phase one, and we have to prove that phase one works. And that will obviously be for at least several weeks. We'll talk more about that as we get closer. But right now, let's get through the first steps before we get too far ahead of ourselves.
Aaron from Politico is up next. Aaron.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. Two questions about contact tracing. You said you're going to have 1,700 people now. I believe to meet Governor Cuomo's threshold, you need 2,500. Do you have an estimate of when that will be achieved? Second question, if I understand this correctly, you're only focusing on close contacts. So I'm wondering, is there any plan to address the issues of people who may be contracting this in public places, grocery stores, subway cars, et cetera, people who aren't getting it from close contacts? How are we dealing with containment in those scenarios?
Yeah, Aaron, on the first point, we expect to get to that 2,500 plus number in the first 2 weeks of June. So as we are getting there, we'll have announcements on that, but we do feel good about getting to that number during that time frame. On the close contacts, I think this is just a practicality and reality point. If you are someone who tests positive and there's follow-up from the tracers to you and they say, and Ted can go into detail on this, but who have you been in contact with? It's going to be the realistic options of who are people you knew you were in contact with and you knew who they were so they can be followed up on. It's not going to be if you happen to be close to someone but have no way of knowing their identity. That doesn't obviously help us or get anything done. So it's based on the reality of who you had that contact with and who you knew so we can find them.